Welcome to Series 7 of the Dig podcast, and I am your host, Caroline O'Neill. In this series, I am talking to business owners, entrepreneurs, and experts who are sharing their journey and preparing us for the future. What does the working world look like in the future? It changes every week, every day, every hour. So tune in each week as I ask my guests how they are future-proofing their business. Today on the Dig podcast, I am speaking to Jack McGarry. Now, a lot of you will know Jack. This is my first time talking to him, but a lot of you probably already know him. He's originally from Ardoyne in Belfast, but wait for this, he is the owner of one of the world's best bars. Imagine saying you're the owner of one of the best bars in the world, and that is what he is. So the Dead Rabbit, have you ever heard of the Dead Rabbit? I have never been, but it's on my bucket list. It's situated in New York City. What isn't class about New York? And the Dead Rabbit just brings that extra Irishness to New York that we all love. And Jack always said he would have the best bar in the world. Imagine having that self-belief and that vision. And that's what a lot of us as business owners and entrepreneurs and people in the world of work want. We want to be the best at what we do. We want to be known for being the best in our field. And he sprinkles that magic on that statement. And we want to know how he has that self-belief. He was awarded one of the best bars in the world in 2016. And we're going to hear all about that. But through all of that journey, and through all of that success, there's been a lot of challenges, like everybody has them. And Jack speaks openly about them, and he's an open book. He said to me before we came on there, no, I'll talk about anything. I'm an open book. And I was like, oh, are you prepared for what I'm going to be asking you? So he's talking about his struggles with alcohol. Everybody has their internal demons and their struggles, but he openly talks, and that helps so many people, which is unreal, and that's why he does it. I just know that. And he wants to change, this is what I love too, he wants to change people's perception about Irish bars and the Irish drinking culture, and we're so much more than, I loved his statement, like leprechauns and all day drinking. It's about more than that. It's a movement, it's a community, it's everything that we want to be known for throughout the world, and he is creating that movement. But how is he doing it? That's not easy. He's got big plans for scaling his business, not just growing it, which is really, really key. And yeah, I can't wait to talk to him. I'm not going to say any more. It's going to ruin the conversation. But Jack, we're here live from you. You're there live from New York. Thank you for being on the Dig podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I know, I'm excited to meet you. Like, I've heard a lot. I was on the way home from work there, I was over in Cookstown, and my brother rang me and he's like, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm going to New York. And he was like, what are you on about? And I said, no, I'm going to talk to a man called Jack McGarry. And he's like, oh, he's lethal. Oh my God, I can't wait to hear. Can't wait to hear. So everybody's intrigued by your journey and your success and your challenges. Jack, talk to us about, like, I gave a wee introduction, but those early days, like, you were a bartender in Belfast for years. What was life like then, and what were the struggles that you were going through?
I mean, for me, it started out, obviously, as you touched on, I was born in North Belfast, and I moved to West Belfast when I was a kid and started in a secondary school that I wasn't flourishing in. And thankfully, I got the opportunity to move to St Mary's grammar school. And it was really there that the fire was sort of ignited. I was sitting in third period just before break, and we did a chemistry exam the week before, and obviously wasn't used to the academic sort of rigor of a grammar school, so the teacher read the results from top to bottom, and I came in dead last. And I remember going to break after that and basically making a pact that I would never be the bottom of anything ever again. If I done anything, I was going to put my 100% application into it. So after that, I flew through school, but it was also during that period that I mean, same as thankfully talking to an Irish community back home, you will get these metaphors. I constantly ask my mum for a land of money, which as a kid, you've absolutely zero intention of paying back. That money's gone. So I asked my mom, I think I asked her for 50 quid or something for the latest Man United top or something like that. And she was like, son, I was 15 at this time. She was like, if you want something in life, you've got to go out and earn it. And it was with that I said to my dad, connect me with his cousin who ran the hunting lodge in West Belfast. It was literally just the bottom of our street. And I started there about 2 weeks later. As soon as I got my national insurance number, and I just fell in love with the industry, and I followed that cousin around. He moved from the hunting lodge and opened Cafe Vaudeville, which is like the style bar of the city centre of and again, you will know what that means. Like, it's just a better looking bar than a pub. um, so I followed him, and that's where I first saw cocktails being made and customers, like this bartender was making a round of drinks, and I seen how the customers were looking at him moving behind the bar, like it was poetry. And these four drinks appeared for two sets of couples, and they each drank the drinks at the same time, and just the expressions on their face, they were intoxicated by him, and then they were just over the moon with the way, like the taste of the drinks. I had, beyond that, the ubiquitous sort of scene in a pub would have been pints of Guinness or Harp, or it was like it wasn't captivating. A pub wasn't captivating. Whereas I seen this new thing in a bar in the city centre, and that's really what grabbed my interest. And then after that, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into this as we go through, but after that, my sole focus at that period of my life became, I want to be the best bartender in the world. So that was really the shift. It was like I could see that journey ahead of me, and that's, I attacked it with 1000% commitment.
And with, I suppose, everybody when they're growing up, and I suppose I talk to a lot of young people who are struggling to find their way and know what the right path is for them. And sometimes when it doesn't come natural, like it sounds like it came pretty quick there to you what your vocation was. But was that because you surrounded yourself with people that were in, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of advice for young people that are trying to find their way like you were. What advice would you give to people that are listening, young people that are trying to find what their vocation is or what their calling is?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to find. For me, it's always gravitating towards what interest, like what gets me up out of bed in the morning. There's a lot of my family members, and I'm sure the same everybody else in Belfast. Like, they work in the civil service and they do stuff like that. I'm like, I just don't get that. That would not get me up out of bed in the morning. I'm not saying that to have a go at anybody. Obviously, everybody dances at their own beat. But for young people back home, anytime I'm speaking to, and obviously with the mental health problems and stuff back home, the thing I always say is, like, go towards where your curiosity is taking you, like, constructively. Obviously, if it's destructive sort of tendencies, you have to shift those. But I gravitated towards cocktails, mixed drinks, pubs, hospitality, and then it became, how can I become the best in class at those mediums? And then in Belfast, you had the likes of the Connoisseur Club, which Sean Muldoon was running at the Merchant Hotel, and very quickly became aware that he was the leading light in Belfast. And I went up to him in the middle of one of these connoisseurs clubs, and when he was inviting all over these American speakers like Sasha Petrosky, Dale DeGroff, like global luminaries, and I'm at the front, like, scribbling every piece of everything that they're saying. And that's, so first and foremost, I realized at that point, these guys are traveling from America, and or these women and guys are traveling from America. I'm like, there's obviously a career in this if you do it to an elite level. And then the second thing was, how do I get to that level? And the way to get to there is to work with the best, is to surround yourself with education, the resources, the tools. And I think in any walk of life, be it a security person or any type of discipline, you can be mediocre or you can be magnificent. And it just depends on where your paradigm is in that. So everything I do, I want to be the best. Like, everything I choose to do, I want to be the best at it. So that was really that. Once I stuck to where I am now in terms of the vocation, as you said, it was how do I become the best at this, and that's what I'm like every day I wake up now. When I started, it was very much about bartending. I brought books. Like, I was making a lot of money when I worked at the Merchant Hotel for a young, like, an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. All the money I spent, about 30 or £40,000 pounds back in those days, on cocktail books, 400 or 500 cocktail books in Belfast. I remember doing the lads trips when I was 18, 19 to Gran Canaria, and all the fellas were going out and drinking, and I was studying cocktail books from the 19th century and early 20th century. So it was just a full on dedicated to that, you know. So yeah, that's what I would say to any young person. Like, find a vocation, find something that genuinely interests you, and then shift the focus to how can you become the best at that chosen vocation.
And like with that, like anyone, you know, I think deep down we all have a vision for how we want to turn out and what we want. That passion is definitely alive in you, and you're great at inspiring others to do it. But you're also open about the fact that then challenges in life fell in, and struggles with mental health and addiction. And that, a lot of people listening, whether they're young people or business people or family people, everybody has those things to deal with, whether it's directly or indirectly within their family circles. What was that like, trying to cope with your ambition but getting pulled back by the addiction, Jack? What was going on? Or
Yeah, so obviously with hindsight, you're able to look back and sort of pinpoint. I mean, as much as I go back to that chemistry exam, and I'm like, I would have been very bitter at this at the start of my recovery journey and stuff like that. But so I look back and I'm glad of that moment because it ignited something in me. But it's also the start of like needing that validation to fill a hole. Like, I can trace it sort of back to then, and obviously, listen, all of us in the north, we've all been touched in obviously different generations more profoundly than others, but we've all been touched by the troubles and sectarianism and all of that type of stuff. So we all have that baggage. Um, so there's that, and then that moment in school, and then I found very quickly in the industry, I was I'm still an introverted person, but I'm now able to do the performative part in terms of like when I'm in front of customers or in front of people, I can do that part now, thankfully, because I'm in the hospitality sector. But when I started out, you're again 15. I started in bars. I didn't develop way I would say a normal teenager would develop in terms of coping strategies and that type of stuff. So I was in these dark rooms surrounded with alcohol. I had this dream of being the best bartender in the world. I had pictures, I remember friends having pictures of Pamela Anderson on the wall. I had pictures of Dale DeGroff and these bartenders that were known globally around the world, and that was my goal. So I can't really track it. I wasn't cognizant of it during that period, and even though when I look back, there was tons of red flags, and it was the same when I went to London, and then when I moved to New York, and the bar opened and we were doing well, and then 3 months after, I won World's Best Bartender. So that was that goal that I'd set out to myself at like 17, 18, completed. Like, I'd done that one. And I remember as soon as I stood off the podium, I was like, I knew that it was empty. There was nothing to that. You know, that wasn't going to fill the larger issues at play. And that sort of precipitated over a period of, I think, 2 years, where I began to question everything, and like the descend into the dark abyss. It reached its climax in 2016, and I woke up in hospital and just felt totally lost. You know, it's you like I'd lost the spark, and I'd lost the love for the industry. Lost the love for bartending, and then I remember going into a room with a professional. She was like, "You're an alcoholic. You're an addict," and nobody had told me that before. And she's like, "That very thing that propels you to succeed, achieve, and all of that type of stuff. That when you invert that, that also is what drives you to destruction." Um, and then that started the process of like recovery, and then learning how to develop the toolkit, and really learn how to harness the benefits of addiction while ameliorating the negative sort of tendencies with it. So, as I said, I've started that from 2016, and I haven't really looked back since. But it is like, people who shoot for the moon. It takes a particular type of crazy to do that. So I just think anybody that does that, and entrepreneurs and stuff, there's a real dark side of it that I think we all need to acknowledge and be aware of. And when it starts to swallow us up, we can throw our hand up and we can pull each other out of it, because entrepreneurship and business. It's not for normal people. Like, there's nothing normal about it. It's lonely. It's full of risk. It's full of ambiguity. It's not sure. And we have to be aware of all of that. So it took me a while to wrap my head around all of that, but now obviously I'm in a much better place.
And you're right, it is scary and lonely and dark, but I think now in today 2023, thankfully people talk more and open more, and you sharing your story and others, like someone's listening to this and they're in the same position, you know what I mean, like definitely. So definitely there's great positivity and hope when you hear you say all of this, and to say that you've never looked back. I'm sure there's days whenever it's hard, but you've your cope, as you say, your toolkit, and it's about us all having our toolkit, really, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's whatever our struggles are. But you then from 2016, like the best bar in the world, Jack, like one of the best bars in the world, that doesn't happen without strategy and procedures. And what things did you put in place to make sure these dreams came true? Because we're all dreaming here. We need some things in our toolkit now, so help us.
So it's funny because you say procedures, and we didn't have any procedures when we won those awards, to be perfectly honest with you, and I'll get to that in a second in terms of where I moved from bartending, the operations, and leading a business and entrepreneurship and all of that type of stuff. But in terms of us actualizing that dream, we arrived over here, myself and Sean, and the goal was it was basically to take the world-class cocktail execution that we were known for in the cocktail bar in the Merchant Hotel, and then fusing it with the vehicle of an Irish pub that would be like the best representations in Belfast would be the likes of Duke of York and Kelly Cellars, because there was, and listen, you're back home, and most of your listeners are back home. You walk past the Merchant, the old Merchant, you have those steps up into the great room, and for a lot of people in Belfast, those steps are representative of like a walk to the Mount Everest. It's not accessible. And what we wanted to, and in that time of the cocktail industry, the bars that were dominating were 5-star hotel bars. They were speakeasies. They were not like utilitarian spaces that you would associate with an Irish pub. So we really sought out to bring together the world-class cocktail level and then fuse it in an Irish pub and use that for a vehicle initially of modernizing the Irish pub. And we arrived, obviously, the concept of the Dead Rabbit and what we did all spoke back to those original bedrocks. And we moved over here, and the goal was to open the world's best bar. That's what got us here. We didn't come over here to mess about or enjoy New York. It was a mission. We came over here. Remember telling people where we chose as a location. They were like, they said great stuff to your face, and then behind your back, they were like, those fellas are nuts. It's never going to work. We had Hurricane Sandy. Both of us were broke. We had no money. We were eating one meal a day. It's always funny looking back on it now, and people, you're having these conversations, or you're having conversations that are just surface level, and you're talking about the tip of the iceberg. Like, it was all that bullshit that we had to get through to get the doors open. And even when we got the doors open, it was extremely challenging. But the thing that kept us going all the time was world's best bar, world's best bar, world's best bar. Like, that's what really kept us going. And there's listeners have to acknowledge there's a level of narcissism there. Like, that's really what we're going for.
The Dig podcast needs your help. Did you know that we have thousands of people download the podcast each week, but still people haven't subscribed or followed on the channel? So I'm asking you, if you listen on Apple or Spotify, if you could hit follow. If you listen on YouTube, then hit that subscribe button. It means that I can reach out to even more guests, bring even more actionable advice that can help you in your business.
But honestly, that's that passion, that drive, that determination, that's what got us and we were so upfront about it. It wasn't like we came over to blend in, or it was, we came over, this is what we're doing, we done it, and then we achieved it. But now it's we've radically shifted in the past couple of years because of that, but that's what kept us. That's what got us there. There was no. It was just burning desire and ambition of the two of us, and we with that, a lot of people joined us. Like we had a great team, and they were intoxicated by that drive. And we
And
freewheeled it.
just to jump in, people here in Ireland, Northern Ireland, North of Ireland, down south, whatever people want to call it, it's not that attitude you have there is not something that comes naturally to people. Like we're always like, oh, I have this wee business and I do this wee thing and I'm afraid, and they think that confidence means arrogance. But when I listen to you, I'm like, no, that's why you were successful, because you never let anybody, or you never let yourself believe that you weren't going to be the best. Oh, is that something that you're brought up? Can we learn that? I mean, is that something, how do we get that? You need that. I think you need that to succeed.
You need to have fire. You need fire. You need to have fire in your belly.
Yes.
You know, and I'm a ferocious reader, and I don't really buy in that like there's a lot of this thing where you watch athletics or you hear of like somebody like Elon Musk and you're like, oh, the talent and stuff like that. And that is the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. And there's an amazing book called Grit. And I would encourage anybody listening to this to read it. That coupled with another book called Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. All of these behaviors are learned behaviors. It's all your mindsets are a mindset is like a rock that you pick up. You're like, oh, I don't like that rock. I'll pick a different. You know, it's the way you choose to enter the arena. And for me, it's about being the best. Like back then, it was about being the best and getting these awards and external validation. But every day I wake up and obviously recovery is a profound sort of byproduct of my mindset now. But it's about being the best version of me. It's about how can I be better each and every day. It's about how can I best show up. It's acknowledging my weaknesses. It's constantly developing, and that's the thing I see a lot with like people my age and older. They get into a role or they have like we have kids and we have families and stuff like that, and people just settle. That's just not my MO. You know, I'm constantly trying to be better, and sometimes it's messy, but I'd rather like that's the messiness that I'd rather have in terms of I'm not going to stay static. You know. So yeah,
And
but so the answer to your question is yes, it's definitely it can be learned for sure. You know.
I think when people listen to this, maybe they'll have the confidence to stand up and say, I am the best hairdresser in my town. I am the best solicitor at this type of law. I am the best. And
Yeah.
it's that self-belief then drives growth, I think. So when you're saying all that, I'm like, deadly, right? This is good stuff. So whenever you're doing all of this, I think it's really key to say here, nothing stays the same. So you were partners with Sean, isn't that right?
Correct. Yeah. We were
So
partners for 15 years.
yeah, and life doesn't stay the same. I know that more than anybody as well. Like, but and sometimes with change comes fear and maybe sense of, uncertainty. What was that like then? Partnership for 15 years and then now that's not no longer the way it was. Did that scare you? Is that something that you embraced, or what way? Because there will be partnerships listening that maybe are at a crossroads or a transitional stage.
So there's a couple of things before I answer that. Like I have to acknowledge my age. I'm young. Like obviously I have a young family, but I'm younger, so I'm much more risk. I'm much more tolerant of risk, and I've always been that way in my life. But I know that I'm young, so maybe that's something that you become more risk adverse the older you get. Maybe I don't know. The second thing is I have tremendous belief in myself. You know, it's not like I don't have like I know I'm an intelligent guy. I know I work hard. I'm committed. So the youth, the my overall mindset, sort of inoculated me from being frightened of making a change. And then the third thing would have been like when you go into sobriety and recovery, I'm very comfortable being in rooms and hearing somebody pouring their heart out and confronting the brutal facts, So if there's an elephant in the room, I'm going to talk about the fucking elephant. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm not going to like stick with something if it's not working. I'm going to talk about the big issue. So those three things in tandem, sort of, I didn't have any fear whatsoever when it wasn't working. There was a period of I got sober, and then my whole focus shifted towards like how do I become the best leader for the business? How do I become an all-rounded business person? How do I best? What is my true why? What is the new fire after I've completed the bartending thing? So once I'd captured all that and done a ton of work on myself, there was naturally a point of like me and Sean were no longer seeing eye to eye. We were having profound disagreements on philosophical things, strategy, systems, procedures, processes, personnel. And when the pandemic hit, I was just like, this isn't working, and this isn't working for me. I want out. And it ended up being there was large conversations, and then it ended up being that I was staying here, and Sean was going to take on Charleston and do his own thing. But there was no fear. My bigger fear, particularly when my son was born, was I don't want my son to look at me when he's 30 or 40 years old and saying, Dad settled, Dad stayed in something that wasn't working. I read a book about during that time about Jeff Bezos, and his whole sort of philosophy in life is risk minimization. So when he's on his deathbed, he wants to make sure that he has minimized as many regrets as possible, and that coupled with my son's birth, and I'm like, this is the time, the pandemic, the business was on its knees. I'm like, fuck it, if I'm going to make a change, this is the time to make the change. And there was, but again, there was nervousness and some type of stuff like that, and sadness, obviously, that a relationship for 15 years had come to its end. But there was no, and I don't say this from a bravado or ego, I had no fear. I knew where the chips were going to fall, I was going to figure it out, and I was going to be fine. So I was resolute. I was resolute in myself, knowing that ultimately it was going to be fine, even though the situation at that present time was extremely difficult, and my mum was passing away during that whole thing. So it was like a whole big mess. But I had profound faith in myself to get through it.
I think that there's great hope in that too, and I guess knowing that you said there, if the chips fall, you'll still get through it, because what's the worst? What's the worst? I always say to my husband, like even if this happens, this thing you're talking about that's going to be bad. What's the worst? We're not going to, like, hopefully, but your mum was passing away, you're dealing with death and all, but hopefully we'll still be alive and we're healthy. We'll figure it out. So it's about having, I suppose, that strong mindset again that you have. But partnerships do naturally sometimes just evolve to not being
100%
feasible anymore. And it doesn't mean it's a failure. I think that's really, really important to realize. But yes, so you didn't stop. You're starting to scale. And I think we've talked a lot about this in the podcast recently. Just to give you a wee bit of insight, Jack, that people think growing is scaling. And I would have had that mindset whenever I had my shop. I was flat to the mat, 6 staff, 8 changing rooms, 7 days a week, late nights, online growing. But I wasn't really making any money. And I would be very honest in saying that. I was growing flat out, but I really wasn't scaling the business. And I know more, I wish I knew then what I know now. But anyway, that's hindsight. But tell us about scaling. What are you doing now? What is this? What does this mean to you now to be scaling the business?
Yeah, and that goes back to the sort of the situation with Sean. I think Sean wanted to stay smaller, and I wanted to get bigger. And the getting in touch with that why for me, coming to America, I was just sick, sore, and tired of the representation of our culture over here. It's fucking corned beef and cabbage, patty whackery, leprechauns, all of that type of stuff, and it's just not. And these people over here call that Irish, so it's not Irish, So that took a bit of, like, in recovery, that really started to know. So at the business, the harder skills I was developing, and then the softer side of, like, I was just deeply unhappy with the representation of Ireland, and I thought that we had an amazing opportunity to start changing that conversation. And with that, you cannot just do that with Dead Rabbit or one Dead Rabbit in New York. You have to take that mission of changing the conversation with Ireland and challenging Paddy Wacker. You have to take that, has to grow in order for us to change the conversation and achieve that mission. So there's a missionary perspective to it. But listen, obviously every business has to make money, it has to be profitable, and profit is the oxygen of organizational health. But you don't live solely for oxygen. There has to be more. That's really why the mission side of things is so important. So the thing that crystallized and was a catalyst for us getting bigger and scaling was to amplify our ability to challenge those misconceptions. And we felt what we do in Dead Rabbit in terms of representing Irish culture, we needed to open up one of these pubs in as many cities as possible. So now we're opening in Austin and DC, and we have criteria in place to pick these places. But we've also started the process now of introducing different concepts. So we just launched the Irish Exit a couple of weeks ago, which is our transit focused concept, and we're aiming to scale that into airports, train stations, sports arenas, and other transit locations in the coming years. And then we're working on two other concepts. So the Dead Rabbit Group for the next 3 to 5 years will be these four concepts, three of which we believe are pretty scalable. And our whole thing is partnering with photographers, artists, craftspeople, musicians from back home and telling their stories on the American stage. And that's like you're growing, like in Dead Rabbit we're growing. So the difference to me growing, like Dead Rabbit this year is up 25% than 2019, which was our busiest year. So the bar is growing. Irish Exit is flying. We've doubled the previous space that we took over. We've already doubled the revenue there. But scaling is a completely different thing. You're 5x and 10x in your company, and you have to build infrastructure around that. You have to build marketing effective around that. You have to build leadership capabilities into that. So scaling is, to your point, is an altogether different thing to growing. But in order for us to fully achieve our mission, we have to scale. And my whole philosophy in life is I'd rather have a smaller slice of a much bigger pie than have a big slice of a small pie. So that's sort of my whole philosophy with everything that we're doing.
Well, it's working, right? Because when I look at all the socials for the Dead Rabbit, I feel pride. I look at it and I'm proud. I'm proud that Ireland is represented like that in America. And I know I can see your vision. I can see it, and it's just going to be amazing. But you made me laugh, right? Because I was doing my research there on you before we came online, and I was like, how is he doing this? Like growing, it's so hard with a team to get a team with the same vision and that get you and understand you. And I started to look through everything you're doing on LinkedIn now, and I laughed my head off. So you have the guts of a man I've never seen. So you wrote this post on LinkedIn, and I'll link it in the show notes actually, so everybody can go to see. So he's trying to grow his team, right? Everybody that's listening, and he wrote, "Don't apply if you're an asshole." And I was like, is it allowed to say that? And you are said, right? You said that, and you no fear when you said that. But tell me, there was a whole load of other things as well. Don't apply if you're this. Don't apply if you're that. Then do apply if you're this. Tell me about that approach. That's really important? Do you obviously to weed out all the misconceptions about what this role is going to be? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing with me, and this this with anybody that comes into the bars or is in our orbit. Authenticity to me and integrity is critical. I am from Ardoyne. I'm from North Belfast. I'm not polished. I say things as they are. I'm a very direct communicator. I'm not again, over years now I've learned how to develop the emotional side and all of that type of stuff. So my emotional intelligence is much better than it was, but I don't mince mince my words. I say exactly, and listen, it's the same with everything, even the political situation over here, and the issues in like the Middle East and stuff. I think it's incumbent if you have a platform and you're perceived as a leader, you have to be yourself. You have to be real. You have to say what's on your mind. and listen, you obviously have to be diplomatic and stuff like that, but you have to be real, because people that work beside you, alongside you, and your customers, people know unauthenticity right away. They know it. And my whole thing is, before I was sober, it was like I was trying to be everything for everyone. I was trying to, you know, like you were having a million dishes on your food menu, a million cocktails and stuff like that, to be as attractive to every single person. And if you have that type of mindset, you're not going to get far in life, or you're going to get burnt out. So I am very, like, Dead Rabbit. You don't come to Dead Rabbit if you want a world class agave experience. You don't come to Dead Rabbit if you want a gourmet Michelin star. Like, we are a pub. We're a world class cutting edge pub. It's all about contemporary Irish culture. We had a team member when we restructured the company a couple of years ago, and they're like, I want some American music on the playlist. And I'm like, that's great. You can go and work somewhere else if you want that, because that's not what we're going to do here. So authenticity is critical to me. And in terms of building the company now, there's a couple of barriers that I think that keep me up at night, in terms of we need to scale these barriers. So it's infrastructure. So as you hinted at before, your procedures, your processes, your systems, solutions, all that type of stuff. We need to have the adequate infrastructure to scale. Our marketing effectiveness, so social media, traditional advertising, all of that type of stuff, we need to be solid there. Leadership, 9 times out of 10, you leave a place because of a leader. So I want to make sure we have world-class leaders. And then the cultural side of things, making sure we're the best in class company to work for. We over here, we pay all of our team members health insurance. We invest heavily into our culture. So in terms of leaders, I'm 20, this year's 20 years already in the hospitality sector. I've had my fill of shitty leaders. And a lot of leaders, you can feel it right away. It's like they'll call it my team, my staff, my bartender, my this, and it's like, it's not. They're not yours. They're not your servants. They're volunteering. They can go and volunteer in another company. They can go somewhere else. So my whole paradigm is on serving, making sure that we have great quality leaders that serve their team, set them up for success, communicate all the time, don't hide in our offices, are open to feedback both from top down and bottom up. Constantly want to grow. There's a whole, and per that LinkedIn post, there's a whole bunch of things I want, and there's a whole bunch of things I don't want. And if you're an asshole, if it's all about you, you're not going to work at in any of our places, and that's the other thing. I will fire, and I've had to learn this. With the first couple of teams we built at Dead Rabbit, I was an autocrat. I was authoritarian. It was all about me, and then I got sober, and I learned. I immersed myself the same way I did in the cocktails, in the leadership business, and all that type of stuff. So in order to be a successful leader, you have to lead people, you have to serve people, you have to communicate your expectations, you have to help them, you have to coach them, and you also have to edit the team. You have to let people go if they're not succeeding. You have to bring new people on. But again, and that's all the type of things I believe in. So I want to make sure I only surround myself with people who believe what I believe, and if they don't, then we quickly address it.
And here, I'm sure there's people who don't like that type of attitude that you like. When I read the LinkedIn post, I'm like, holy shit, he has some nerve. And I feel like excited by that transparency that you have. But do you ever get anybody saying, here, that type of language is not right when you're trying to recruit? What would you say to people like that? You don't care?
I'd say it's probably good. It's probably good that you're not working with us then. So, and listen, I get that, but that again, it's the whole thing why I am saying that, because I want to make sure, like, there's this particularly, and I don't want to veer into this type of thing, like the younger generation is not the same as our generation and all that nonsense, but I want to make sure the big thing with that post was, we have high expectations. You're going to be getting feedback on a consistent basis. We expect you to serve the team. This is the expectation. So if that type of message repels you, then good. It's serving its purpose, and we're using that to pierce through, because I'd rather get 30 great quality candidates and spend the time filtering them down and getting 300, and then I have to cut through all the bullshit because I wasn't clear on the first go, you know. So I'm fully cognizant that there's going to be some people who are like, God, that's a lot. But working at this company is a lot, you know. That's the reality of it. We are assembling the car while we're driving. We're moving fast. We don't like. I'm sure there's going to be things we miss, but I want people who are humble, agile, dynamic. I want people that have integrity. I want people who are accountable. I want people that are transparent and all of that type of stuff. So, as far as I'm concerned, if people feel that way, then so be it.
Love it. I love it. I think it gives people confidence to, as you said, speak out, be the leader you know you are, and let people see why you're the best at what you do and why you want the best around you. So I think that people take a lot of confidence from that. Well, and they can do that in their own way. Like that's your style, but
Yeah,
there's definitely something in that for everybody to be open and honest about what it takes to join the team. And then if they don't like that, they're not the right person for it. So I love that. I think that's brilliant. And it takes confidence, but we need confidence, and you're definitely instilling that in us today. Here, I want to ask you about. I don't know if you've heard me say it already, but I think I say it about 30 times a day. The word deadly is my adjective for describing everything. That's how people actually cite that to me here. Everything's deadly with you. So when I seen that you were launching a thing called That's Deadly, I was like, this is my man. I need to talk to him. So this is another element of, like you talked about, isn't it, like the Irish exit and building the brand? Isn't that, am I right in saying that? Like That's Deadly is another way to kind of tell a story about everything deadly. Am I right, to do with Ireland and Irishness?
yeah. I mean, listen, to me, being in this space is all about telling stories.
This week's episode is brought to you by our fantastic sponsor, Night Owl Studio. So I've been talking about Night Owl over the past few weeks now, and I've been spending a lot of time with them as well because they're actually working on a new website for me, and which is really, really exciting. But Night Owl are a creative agency, and they're based in Cookstown, Mid-Ulster, County Tyrone, but they're virtual. Like you can access their services from anywhere in the world, which is very exciting for all businesses these days. But they offer a range of services such as design, photo and video content, and I've been talking about them over the past few weeks. But one of the most exciting services that they offer, and something that I am not really familiar with or know a lot about, is 3D animation. How would I know? That's not my skills. That's the skills of Night Owl. So if you're thinking of how you want to show your product in like an innovative way, sometimes it can be hard to think about that. Like, how do I do that? And you have to think outside the box. And that's what Night Owl are good at. They create amazing visuals that'll help you stand out from your competition. So they create photorealistic, now wait for this, 3D models of your product, and they animate them in ways that wouldn't be possible with traditional video. And all they need is a few reference images of your product, and they can literally bring it to life with their 3D software. Now, I've seen this in action when I went over to visit them. They actually brought up it was a voodoo hairdryer onto the screen, and it was all animated 3D, and it was fabulous. So like whatever your wildest idea is, you can make it a reality in a high quality animation, and it'll help like your brand like stand out with your audience and resonate with them. And so if you're still developing your product and you want to start your pre-launch campaign, you can create a launch video before you even hold the real product in your hands, and that can help generate the hype and the buzz for the release. So there's no pressure waiting on that product. You can go ahead and get that all in action. So if you want to like get to the grips with 3D animation and what that could do for your business, definitely send Night Owl a message on social. They are Night Owl Studio NI _. And even more exciting, 20% off. So any project with Night Owl, if you quote DIG, that you've heard this advert, DIG20 will get you 20% off any project. But if you're focusing on animation, it includes that as well. It includes websites, photos, video content, design, graphics, but also this animation, 3D animation is so exciting. So thank you to them for being the sponsor of the Dig podcast for the past few weeks. And I'm excited to see what they're working on for me with the Dig brand. And yeah, I hope you all love working with them as much as I do.
Every business is telling a story, and with the Dead Rabbit, the whole emphasis with us is to really represent contemporary Ireland, and there's a lot of different facets to that. And as I said to you, we're building current with 2 concepts out of the 4 that are launched. So you have the Dead Rabbit, which to us is our version of the best in class contemporary Irish pub. You have the Irish Exit, which is all about leveling up the experiences that you would get in an otherwise sanitized experience of transit areas. So we've all been in those shit airport bars and train station bars and sports arena bars. So we're trying to take our contemporary Irish product and the key success factors of what we do at Dead Rabbit and scale that within those spaces to touch people we otherwise wouldn't touch and reach with the Irish story. And then we're building a super high end sports concept celebrating Irish and Irish American diasporic culture, which will be launching in 25. And then another one's a super high end food concept to challenge the misconceptions around Irish food. Like everybody in America is like, eat potatoes and fucking corned beef and cabbage. And I'm like, we serve some of the best cuisine in the world, and the chefs back home and all the stuff is going on. I'm like, we need to address that. So there are the 4 things in that side, but we have sub brands underneath that again do slightly different things. So we've Jingle Jangle that we're launching in 2 weeks, which is our Irish Christmas. So everything in the bar, it's taking those things that we love from Christmas in Ireland and then bringing them over here beyond, because a lot of Americans love Christmas, but all these bars turn into like kitschy plastic fake things, and we wanted to do like a real cool authentic Irish Christmas. So that's Jingle Jangle. And then the one that you touched on, and we've a whole bunch of these, but the one that you touched on specifically was That's Deadly. And That's Deadly to us is really, I think it's going to be one of our key differentiators in the years ahead. We brought on a guy from our music director from Derry, and he overhauled all of our playlists to make sure that all the bars are playing contemporary Irish music. And I don't mean just diddly dee, like the R&B scene from the immigrant movement in the Ireland. You're seeing that take off in Derry, Dublin, Limerick, Galway. You know, I want that to be told the next generation of singer-songwriters, the next generation of bands, punk bands, rock. That's the type of stuff you'll hear in our bars. But beyond that, when he came on board, I'm like, we need to start bringing these people to play to our customers in the bars. And I was thinking about what vehicle can we build to leverage that. And we all back home say That's Deadly, and That's Deadly to us means that's class, that's excellent, that's best in class, and that's what we came up with. And obviously it still forms part of the identity of the Dead Rabbit, because obviously it's just an ly at the end of it. So right now we're launching That's Deadly with That's Deadly sessions, which are the music sessions that happen in the bar, with That's Deadly comedy, which we have Katie Boyle, who's like one of the preeminent Irish comedians in America. We have That's Deadly Unplugged, which is recording the musicians and will be the comedians eventually in really iconic scenes in or sites in Belfast, like distilleries, tourist attractions, seeing it completely stripped back and the like the pure essence of it. And then we have another part called That's Deadly Productions, which is something further down the line. But I would like to, like, I could see any idea that we create. I'm like, what is it in the short, medium, and long? So the long term for That's Deadly on the production side could be, and I'm not saying this will happen, but like this is the pie in the sky thing. It could be a festival. It could be its own dedicated venue, like a music and entertainment venue. It could be many different things. We might even say everything goes amazing. We might start signing people ourselves and promote. You know what's it could be that. But for the next year, and we're just wrapping this now, we're going to be investing north of $500,000 into That's Deadly, to bring over the artists, to bring over comedians, to do the marketing, recording, to do all of this stuff, to really like put our money where our mouth is with that side of the business, you know. So it's we haven't really started with That's Deadly yet, but that's going to be a key thing for us as we go. We'll get somebody like we had to scratch over with Somebody's Child. We have Morgana coming over, and when they come over now and next year we can get them to perform at New York, and they can go on mini Dead Rabbit tours. So they can go to New York, Chicago, or sorry, not Chicago, DC, and Austin. So yeah, it's going to be a big piece for us in the
And you
years
had
ahead.
Cian DeCrow was in singing in the Dead Rabbit. I seen
Yeah,
on social too. I love him. And I suppose that just takes me. And I know you've been giving me enough of your time here, but just a few more wee things I want to touch on. You don't do any like this. Is like you're always shining a light on all the other people and all the other things that make the brand good, but it's all about collaboration with you. I think I can see that and feel
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
And actually, Jack, I heard somebody talking about you before I even knew you, and it was Alex from Field Day, you know, the candles.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I did a podcast, Alex, she's lovely, and she was talking about how she was working on this really cool concept for this guy in New York and the bar. It's before I even knew you, and then that's when I started to look into you. And she was saying we're collaborating, we're going to bring like the scent of Ireland to, isn't that right, to his bars and stuff.
Yeah.
We can sell the candles and all. And I was like, oh my God, imagine somebody in America bringing us over there. And that's when I started to see what you were doing. And then I was like, oh my God, he's collaborating with everybody over here and bringing it over there. And this is unreal. So collaboration, what would you say? That's deadly. But I mean, what would you say to people who are listening? They're trying to build their business alone without bringing in others. It's really nearly impossible. You need to collaborate for growth, right?
I mean, 100%. And I would have been one of those scarcity sort of mindset or zero sum game thinkers when we first opened, or when I first got into the industry. Like, in order for me to succeed, somebody else has to not succeed. And it's such a, I mean, if I could go back to the younger me, I'd be like, fuck's sake, will you get it together and wise up? So my whole thing now is like, we have to, like, for Dead Rabbit to be a success, all of our collaborators and partnerships are what going to get, or what is going to get us there. Our creative agency, Crown Creative, is in Belfast. We work with people like Alex. We work with canvas galleries. We work with so many different artists and photographers. We work with Modet, furniture makers, and Abbey furniture makers in north and south of Ireland. We've our Irish whiskey directors in Galway, our Irish, the music directors in Derry. We have to have these partnerships across the board in order for us to really champion and sell what is Ireland. Because I can't just say, like, here's Jack McGarry's version of Ireland, because that means nothing. It's the Dead Rabbit is the synthesis of all of those things. And when you come in as a customer, I remember, he's passed now, but a real luminary of the cocktail industry was a guy called Sasha Petrosky, and he was talking about what is a sort of cocktail called a Manhattan. And somebody asked him, what is a great Manhattan? Is it the rye? Is it the sweet vermouth? And is it the bitters? And his answer was, a great Manhattan is, you shouldn't be able to discern the parts. It should be better than the sum of its parts. And within the context of Dead Rabbit, you come in, you sit on a piece of furniture from Antrim or Cork, or you go into the bathroom and you smell those scents that Alex made, or you come out and you hear the music, or you look at the walls and it's all these original pieces of art. You taste these products from distillers and brewers back home. You're not going to be able, like, for me, it's all of that coming together, and you walking out and going, fuck me, that was like, that's Ireland. That, because that's, for some of our customers, that's as close as they're going to get to Ireland. And I want to make sure that we're like, I think we have a huge responsibility to tell that story. I feel deeply responsible, and it's a responsibility I take extremely serious, but we can only get there with those partnerships and collaborations. So it's absolutely critical, and that transcends the external partnerships. It's internal too. Our leaders, our team members, our shareholders. Everybody. And I say, I don't mince my words. I'm pretty vocal with that with everybody. Customer. I don't believe the customer's always right.
Oh,
I tell shareholders.
that's what I want to talk to you about too. I read that and I was like, oh my God, he is. And I actually quoted that to Brian McAniff, McAniff Hotels in Donegal. I
Yeah,
said, you didn't say in the media there, a boy said, I didn't quote your name, but I was like, a boy said recently, Brian, that the customer isn't always right, but it was you I was talking about. Just tell us about that there, Jack. What, how do you get away with saying that now? Because everybody always says the customer's always right, but they're not.
yeah. So I'll go to it right now. But it's, so saying that for the team members and then also the shareholders. Like, right now, we're not telling everybody, we're not giving distributions for the foreseeable future, because we're funding the growth of the company. So that level of communication, collaboration, and the partnerships. I'm like that the whole way through with everybody. And again, to your earlier point, not everybody likes it, but everybody appreciates the honesty and the direction. So that's that part
Sorry, I
on
jumped
the
in there. I was so excited by the
no,
fact that
no,
you
not
said
at
that.
all.
But yes, I know, and that was finished in the collaboration piece. And I think that some people think that when they give themselves over to the promotion or the advertisement or the support of others, that they lose what they're doing themselves. But you have just proved that that's the way you grow. And actually, what's it all about if you can't shine a light on the people that are, making everything, that are working hard, like all those people that you're supporting? You're drawing awareness to them. I just think that's where the key is with you. You're unreal at it. So fair play, and thank you for doing it for everybody back home. But jumping on to the bit that you've the nerve to say that the customer isn't always right. And my God, there's gonna be everybody listening going, oh my God, he's so right, but we're afraid to say it. We're afraid to say it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I came through and that like I think this there's so many orthodoxies in our industry, and my whole thing, and this is just maturity, experience, and constant doing work on myself and reading aggressively and attending courses and stuff like that. I love to smash to smithereens these things that people say, and there's no basis behind it. I'm very much focused on like proving things out, validating assumptions, getting data to back things up. Like, let's try everything. And the more I was in this industry, um, I heard like the customer's always right, and you're behind the bar and you're doing this and you're seeing, and particularly that that whole mindset is the reason why we have this entitled customer right now, because they think they can get away with coming into places. Oh, I'm going to leave a Yelp review, because they see these entrepreneurs like ourselves or business owners like ourselves. Like, we know how important those reviews are. Um, and it's deeply personal for us. I still read every single review of the bar. I respond to reviews all the time. But my whole thing on this customer's always right thing is they're not always right. I've seen customers sexually harass people. I've seen customers create things that aren't real. I've seen customers that it's they just don't like something, or they've come in a pissy mood, or and they're not always right. A customer to me is a customer until they cease to be a customer. If they grab somebody's ass, if they shout something abhorrent or obscenities, if they're saying something that's just flat wrong, like, I'm not going to let that slide. I'm always going to say, this is actually what happened. Here's why we did what we did. And conversely, if we did something wrong and I find out, and because I look into everything, and if we were genuinely at wrong or at fault, we will discipline people. If it meets that threshold, we'll let somebody go. We'll calm things. We'll do whatever we need to do to make it right and win back the trust of a customer. But I'm not going to have an environment where customers can just come in and run roughshod. And again, I remember in the merchant, there was this type of mindset, because you're a 5-star hotel, that customer complains, you have to comp their dishes, you have to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. Because I've seen somebody eating a full dish before and drink a full cocktail before, and then they complain about it. And then they get a comp. I'm like, that's not the way it works. So
No.
there's a million and one reasons why I believe what I believe, but I'm not saying I have this like adversarial relationship with customers. Like, everything we do at Dead Rabbit is to give an amazing experience to the customer. It's to welcome the customer home. It's to be hospitable. It's to do a world class uh thing when they're in. But it's a two-way street. When you come into our home, I'm expecting you to abide by the rules that we govern our home. So it cuts, and that's again, that goes back to who I am. Everything cuts both ways. It's not just like, we all have our part to play, and we all need to be respectful and do the right thing. It's just unfortunate now that there's a portion of customers that think they can just get away with getting on like arseholes, and it's
I
not.
know.
We're not going to let that slide.
when I listen to you, so for 12 years I had my shop, and I'm just going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to let you go. We're going to finish on a high, but I wish there was podcasts 12 years ago. I wish people talked like you to give us confidence. But I had this incident in my shop where a woman asked me for a discount. Right, I'll never get over this. I tell this at conferences and tell it to business owners, and I talk about it all the time because it affected me greatly. So that's the thing in retail. I don't think it happens in bars, but they always say, what's the best you can do there? And that's just the language we get here in Ireland for. So that's grand. I could handle it. I was like, no problem. So I was giving her 10% off, and I'll never forget what happened after that. She said, I tell you what you do. You hang every single one of them items back on them shelves, and I will never put my foot through the store again, because I was going to bring all my children in here, but that, like, because I didn't give her, and this is a true bill now, I swear to God. And I stood there, and what did I do? Cried. Tears fell down my, I was only 26, right? Overwhelmed. I absolutely nearly died because the customer is always right, and I was going to lose her. And what I wish I could go back now and say, do you know what? That's inappropriate behavior. Would you like someone to speak to your daughter like that? I would like you to leave my shop, and I would like you never to come back. But I didn't have the confidence. I believed she was right. I crumbled. It took me a long time to get over that. Probably never get over it in all my time of retail. And I hope that there's people listening now that actually realize, if you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. But if you're in the right, you don't accept that type of behavior that pulls you down. So I when you're talking about that, I'm having all the emotions in my head about what happened to me. So I know it's a very miniature example, but it actually really affected my confidence as a retailer for a long time. So I love that you do
No,
that.
we have a responsibility as well for leaders. Like, I remember my time when I was working below leaders, and quite clearly the service team was in the right, but then you had a leader come in and back the customer. And if you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. That's completely different. You're in the wrong, you're like, right, throw my hands up, fucking, I apologize. But we all have a responsibility to play in that, and that discount thing. Like, we get asked that all the time. Like for events and stuff. Yeah. I did when we were doing through COVID. Obviously, we had to let our whole team go, so I was the one responding to events inquiries, and I never knew that we were getting asked these questions. So, I mean, you know a bit about me now. Like, if somebody asked me for, like, here's our prices, like, we've spent an awful lot of time putting these prices together, and then somebody was emailing me from the likes of, like, these big capital firms around us, and like, can you give us a discount? To me, I'm just like, no, we're not giving you a discount. Like, no, the answer is no. This is the price. Yeah,
Definitely,
people are
yeah.
crazy.
In the world of retail, and I'm always drawn to retail because that was my background, I feel for retailers because the markup, and that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, I remember going home to my daddy, and I think you and my dad are kind of cut from the same cloth. But he said to me, you know what I told her to do? And I won't say what he said to me on that day. He said, don't you ever let anybody speak to you like that again. It's your,
Yeah, just right.
And I think it just takes confidence, and you've done a lot of work on yourself. And I think there's a lot of us, just if you're listening to a podcast now, you're working on yourself and your mindset and all by listening to people like you. So thank you for that. Jack, to bring it all, oh my God, I could talk to you all flipping day. But what does the future look like in hospitality? The theme of series 7 of the Dig podcast is all about the future. Like, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence and flipping robots, and everybody's scared, and we don't know what's going on. What does the future of hospitality and the bar scene look like, Jack?
So I don't get, again, going back to, like, I anytime these big things come out, I read about them. I'm constantly trying to figure out where, like, there's a metaphor over here, or you could even, like, where's the ball going? Or over here they say, where's the puck going? So I'm constantly trying to figure, where are we going as on a macro level, and and then a macro level in our industry, and how do we make sure that we're future proofing both myself and then the business as a whole. So with the reading I've done into all these, like, artificial intelligence and all of the, like, the web 3.0 and all this type of stuff, I'm not overly concerned that we're going to be, like, AI is something to be, we need to have a healthy level of skepticism about, just because of the danger component to it. but every one of these revolutionary, like when the printing press was invented, when the internet, when the computer, like all of these things have come and gone. And ultimately, yes, every one of them has negative, like we need to mitigate and minimize the negative aspects of all of these things, but all of these, like the printing press, internet, they all have negative things, but ultimately they've all, the positive aspects of it have been far better than the negative. And I believe these things that are being created will be the same. And in terms of how they change our industry, I think they're going to dramatically change it. And I'm excited. Like my whole thing with experiences for customers are based on effortlessness or frictionless. You come in and everything happens without friction. You like, I'm constantly looking at the friction points for customers when they come into our spaces. So when they come in, you're standing at the door for a second too long while the doorman checks your ID, or you can't get the server's attention, or there's chewing gum under the table, or there's the menu soiled, or the music's too loud. I'm constantly looking for those sources. But with these technology pieces coming out, the beauty, we're going to be able to make things even more effortless. So when you're looking to book an event, or you have a question in the business, like I'm constantly keeping my eye on for when the solution comes out, that you can just basically book everything that you need to. You can sort it all out just by going to the website and one or two clicks or one or two prompts. So I'm excited for stuff like that. I do very much believe in the philosophy of complementarity in terms of technology and people, but we build everything. We're not bringing this stuff on to get rid of people. We're building it. We're very technology focused, because I love to systematize things so people are free to focus on what is important, which is given the experience, it's given the hospitality. So where our industry is going in the next couple of years, I think, well, for me, it's going to be like, we're very much focused on being a leading edge company. So harnessing all of these big things that are coming through, making the company much more disciplined, making us much more agile, making us much more dynamic. But all of these things will be able to develop and augment our ability to provide amazing opportunities. As I've said, we're all about selling Ireland. Like, that's essentially what we're doing. We're brand ambassadors for Ireland. So I'm excited for, like, again, solutions where you come into the bar and, like, your phone, you can put it on the wall and it tells you the story of the artist. I'm excited for these things. They're not here yet, but I'm excited for when we get to that point. And I'll be fully embracing of all of that. But 5 years for us, I see dead rabbits all over the place. I see Irish exits. I see the other things that we're doing. I see us doing a lot more with the collaborate, because basically the bigger we get, the more cooler stuff that we can do, the more opportunities we can offer our team, the more better experiences we can offer our guests, and the flywheel continues to move. So that's really, really what I'm seeing. But I'm not afraid of any of these big things coming out, but I am keeping my eye on how they can help us be a better company. And I think for too long, our industry specifically, we've been very resistant of, like, technology and stuff like that. And my whole thing, like, I am not going to be that guy who's like burying my head in the sand. I believe that the ceiling today is the floor tomorrow, and ultimately, if you're not moving with that, you're going to be left behind. So I'm not going to be left behind.
You certainly aren't. I'm not going to get left behind either. And neither is the Dig podcast listener, because they're like writing down and taking notes and saying, next time I'm in New York, I'm visiting the Dead Rabbit. What's the drink of the day? What are we ordering when we come to the Dead Rabbit?
So the big thing that we're known for, the two big things that we're known for, is obviously our Guinness. We base our whole Guinness pour off what they do in Gravediggers, Cavanaugh's in Dublin. So they have like a pretty proprietary glass washing system and all this type of stuff. So we serve a great pint of Guinness. But the big, like, if you're talking cocktail, we sell thousands of Irish coffees a week. And thankfully now you can get back more. There's more great versions of an Irish coffee back home. But for too long, when you said to people, "Have you ever had a good Irish coffee?" the answer was always a resounding no. But we it's something that we go all in on. So that's the cocktail I'd always recommend for people to try. And if you happen to be here in the summer, we have just launched in the past couple of months our frozen Irish coffee.
Oh.
You'll not need it for now, but then you come over here in June, July, August, you'll definitely appreciate a cold drink. But again, any of our drinks, we use a lot of spirits from back home: vodkas, gins, poachings, Irish whiskies, liqueurs. So everything we'll be doing the drink side and the food side permeates from that big focus on Ireland. So I'd recommend any of the cocktails that the team here come up with. They're incredibly talented at creating great drinks.
Okay, mine's an Irish coffee next time I'm walking down the
Yeah,
street and calling a dead rabbit. Do you know Laura Bonner that owns Muff Liquor?
I've heard of Muff Liquor, but I haven't met her. I haven't met
Oh,
her.
oh, Jack, you need to, I'll connect you both, send you both an email and connect you. So she owns Muff Liquor. She's from Muff and Donegal. And she's like
Yeah.
you. She said, second best is never good enough for me. I want to be the best. And she now has Russell Crowe, Ronan Keaton, Ed Sheeran, and Jimmy Carr all invest in her business. And it's just went from,
Wow.
I know. So you need to get Muff Liquor stocked in there in the
Brilliant.
Dead Rabbit. But anyway, you look, thank you. Maybe someday there'll be the Dig podcast, the Deadly Dig podcast in the Dead Rabbit, and we'll shine
I
a
look
light
forward to it.
on all the Irish businesses out there. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know with a few it's actually starting to get dark now. We've been talking that long, but we're proud of you. We're proud to say that someone is shining a light for all of us out there and still bringing a little bit of home to America, and we just can't wait to see the journey over the next few years as well. And stay in touch if you're ever at home. I'd love to meet you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on again. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you, Jack.